People of Reddit, what is the most no one knows job that pays really good amount of money? Tube operators. Tubers in the British subway. Because the job is so depressing, whoever takes on the job actually gets paid quite a decent amount. However, the conditions are actually awful. Underground means not much lighting, the air is stuffy, and there is no one to talk to. Nuclear divers. You only have to work once every few months because of the amount of radiation you receive, and can make up to $100,000 per year. As far as part-time work, I valet and make around $30 an hour on average. It's a ton when it is literally the easiest job in the world. Shut your brain off and run for cars. The timpanist, kettle drummer of the orchestra, gets paid really well. Only the first violin gets paid more. It turns out that keeping those kettle drums tuned requires an enormous amount of skill. College GF's parents both played in major city orchestras, got paid 100 and both had PhDs in music. My dad is fishing and my mom is a nurse anesthetist, a job which pays just as much as lots of doctors make, and many don't know it. Just take a master's. Specialist welders. My brother in the southeast makes $250k plus to do welding on nuclear projects. He has to have a security clearance and a bunch of unique training. He works ridiculous hours in spurts but has a lot of downtime when a project is either being treated or he's waiting on some special metal to arrive. I've heard of underwater welders making similar money, but they have to live on a rig and most of it is really just hazard pay. Underwater welding is super dangerous and bad for your body. You get paid well cause you usually die before you reach 60 because of being exposed to hazardous chemicals. Technically not no one knows, more of no one notices. I'm from Singapore, and my uncle sells Hainanese chicken rice as a hawker at $2.50 a plate. Even though the working conditions look rough, he rakes in more than $150,000 a year. You might consider taking over his business if I flunk university. Go to get them Michelin stars too. Tech for events. The grunts do okay, but the guys with any skill do well. Corporate events pay better, but concerts don't build themselves. Like anywhere, you'll run into cheap employers. This is a red flag. You might not get paid at all. Avoid these buttholes. There are plenty of gigs that pay well on time. I was thinking of going into something like this as a part-time weekend gig. There's a company here in particular that needs people to set up breakdown concerts and festivals and staff all sorts of events. Being a court reporter pays extremely well. I live in Texas. The salaries for court reporters here average $75,000 and upwards, including retirement and paid vacation time. Even as a freelance deposition reporter you can make upwards of $100,000 if you put in the time. It's definitely a unique skill though. You need to have a strong command of the English language. The theory behind writing on steno machines is also incredibly unique. You will need to alter your normal ways of spelling to be able to write correctly. In Texas there is a state certification that must be passed before you can be licensed. Texas requires you to write at a speed of 225 strokes per minute for at least 5 minutes. The test is definitely a huge barrier for a lot of people to get licensed. I've heard you can make some pretty crazy money working on oil rigs. The hours are insane. You have to leave home for a while, and the job sucks, but apparently you can make a killing doing it. Dying can also be a problem. Not only does it pay well, but we really need some new blood in the masonry industry. People, if you don't like school, don't go to college, learn a trade. I work for a brick supply company, and you are totally correct. We always have masons coming in asking if we know of anyone looking for work. So much work in our area. Masons are getting top dollar and are booked out for months. Sales professional at luxury retail stores. I worked at a jewelry store in Las Vegas making over $100k a year and being under 30 years old. If you are with the right company and in the right city, commission is limitless. Being in the right location for the right brand is so important here. Though both would technically be luxury jewelry salespeople, there is a world of difference between working at a major brand in near a major city versus working at K Jewelers in a strip mall near a sleepy suburban town. The sexton of a church who gets paid a substantial salary, with benefits and pension. to ring the steeple bells on the hour. Between bell ringing sessions, he polishes the brass in the church and gets it ready for funerals, weddings and weekend services. But most of the time, he acts as a tour guide for those visiting the building on weekdays who want to see the church's original Tiffany stained glass windows. Some people put down trade jobs such as plumbing, welder, etc. because they do not require a college degree after completing trade school, and if you are accepted into a union, you can make a more than decent amount of money and have great benefits to go with it. There are more alternatives than college where you can make a living for yourself, and getting a trade is a great alternative. On top of getting a good job, you also avoid the student debt. Be aware that some occupations are tough on the body. You may not like it so much after kneeling on roofs for 20 years. Health economist. The field of health economics didn't really take off until the late 90s, and it's booming as of today. OECD countries are starting to realize that they need more efficient ways to manage and organize their healthcare systems. Countries like Italy are still at ground zero when it comes to economic evaluation of drugs, technologies, diagnostic tests, treatments, etc. The prime example is the UK, which has a completely separate body called NICE to carry out evaluations for the NHS. People with a master's PhD in health economics are in massive shortage and wanted by pretty much every international organization, technology consultancy, governmental body, and of course by pharmaceutical companies. And they are paid very, very well. Source: I am a health economist working for a major international organization. I don't have a college degree but make around $70,000 in Wisconsin. Industrial inspection, NDE or NDT. Mostly checking high pressure welds with X-ray, magnetics, etc. Downside is the hours. We'll end up with around 80 this week. And you don't always know your schedule, but it's alright for a mid-20s guy without kids or too many responsibilities. Took me about 2.5 years to get to this level. Started around 13 an hour and now around 25. Company paid for me to go to class and get my certifications, which is how you get the raises. This is something I keep telling my friends that seem to have no skills and no way to get any. We have a community college nearby with a 14-month NDT program, and tons of factories and power plants nearby that want to hire you as either in-house or contractor. Driving a commuter train in Toronto, Canada pays $80 a year. I mean, you can be high on C, you just have to watch your speed. Casey Jones. A. Pipe fitters, sort of a different version of an HVACR tech, primarily focusing on industrial and commercial. In Colorado, a good pipe fitter can make $75,000 a year before any overtime. By the time they're 22 or 23, that's with basically no student debt accrued. It's a job that is always in demand too. It can be a tough job, but you'll never hurt for work. No idea if this is true or not, but when I was in the army, we were told that parachute riggers, the people who pack parachutes, work by just having a certain quota of chutes they have to pack per day. Apparently it's a very boring task, and the longer they keep going the more likely a mistake will be made. Because of this, the guys who have been doing it for years and are really good at it complete their quota for the day in like 2-3 hours, so they're home every day by 1100. This guy is an EMT for an overnight shift at an oil rig in Alaska, I believe. He sits on path of exile all night in his trailer with Wi-Fi and a laptop. He's been working for 2 years and has had 3 calls, one of which was only a bear walking around in the vicinity of the outer fence. Makes about $200,000 a year. My ex's brother did this job at 19 years old. Ridiculous pay, but on the second week an oil cap blew and he ended up hanging 4 stories up by the straps on his oxy tank. His wife forced him to quit. So luck of the draw, really, with this one. Repairing equipment in a clean room. No education necessary. Very rare to see degreed techs. Clean room is kept at 65F. You are wearing a full suit over your street clothes and everything you work on requires gloves so your hands stay dirt and callus free. Don't tell my boss, but the job is actually fun. I'm sitting right now with my co-workers and I read them this question. We all agreed that our job as independent insurance adjusters should be added. We are currently working auto flood claims for cars damaged from Hurricane Matthew. Our pay rate is $39 an hour and $58.50 overtime per hour. Anything above 40 hours is overtime. We're working 7 days a week, 11 hours a day, so it's very lucrative. There is travel involved and you never know how long any particular deployment will last. But I recently finished up a 2-year deployment working a desk job making a similar rate, although it was only 6 days a week. I crap you not. At least according to an article I was reading in Business Insider a while back, so take that for what it is. Professional chicken sexers, as in, determining the sex of can earn $60K a year. I mean, that's not retire early money, but I think it's crazy high for feeling chicken dongs for a living. I have a friend whose father is British and his mother Japanese. He grew up in China for most of his life but spent a few years in America and some in Japan. He's naturally fluent in Japanese, Chinese, and English. He works for some Chinese company and is essentially the assistant of any big name people who travel for business. His salary isn't anything incredible, like $75K, but he sometimes goes weeks without working, and when he travels with them he's treated as an equal and gets to eat and drink at some of the finest restaurants in the world and stays in amazing hotels. Radiologist. Most people don't know what we really do or our contribution to their care. So much so that the American College of Radiology put out a campaign, Face of Radiology. A white guy can pretty much go to China and get paid to be a white guy. Either teaching English, no teaching experience required, just need to speak English, or being paid to sit in on business meetings pretending to be an American investor. I need a job like this. Being a flight attendant for one of the good international airlines. My friend works for Emirates, and it's pretty much the ideal job for someone without a family. The salary is awesome. You only work about 14 days a month. You travel the world for free and enjoy mini vacations wherever you go. Stay in 5-star hotels for free. Get set up in a luxury apartment in Dubai for free. Get discounts on international flights for you and yours. Custom cabinetry construction. On average, assuming the craftsman already has the tools on hand and knows how to make boxes already, the cost of custom making the average plywood kitchen cabinetry set, top and bottom cabinets, including all wood, stain, handles and screws, not including countertop, runs about $700-900 in material costs, not including labor. However, due to making the doors custom, they can charge upward of $20-50K for a few days of work. There's a lot more to it, but the actual material and skill cost for making a bunch of boxes is way lower than what the average homeowner is being charged for custom kitchen cabinetry. Plus there's crazy huge demand for custom kitchens due to HGTV. Every middle-aged housewife wants a wine fridge. Anesthesiologist assistant. They work under the direction of licensed anesthesiologists, specialist physicians, and as part of anesthesia care team. Start at $120K and move up to $160K per year. CRNA, Certified Registered Nurse Anesthetist, is another alternative. You're allowed to practice independently in most states, as opposed to AAs who must be under an anesthesiologist. In some states, CRNAs are the sole providers in nearly 100% of the rural hospitals. Salary starts at around $130-140K. I know someone who started at $152K with a $25K sign-on bonus. Some CRNAs make over $200K. Guy used to pay me $30 HR to cremate bodies. It's easy and I just listened to music the whole time. Kinda cliche, but I had death metal on full blast while burning bodies. Pretty cool TBH. I've heard that undersea cable maintenance, mostly underwater welding, pays very well and is extremely difficult to tolerate for even a few months. So, lonely. It's also one of the most dangerous jobs on the fricking planet. Supply chain pays well and isn't overflowing with applicants. Most people at universities have no clue this major exists. Source: I'm a college recruiter and sometimes struggle to find qualified supply chain candidates. Got no gag reflex? Enjoy other people's poo? Have your scuba certs? Become a construction diver? Make $10,000 to dive into wetted structures at the wastewater treatment plant? You're usually done in about 4 hours. Well, 6 hours if you count the shower. After working in an office setting my entire life, I have deduced that the money has to be amazing for printer, copier, fax machine repair people. A never-ending list of work and overtime from what I can see. I'm convinced that there's an unwritten code that requires them to leave the machine in worse condition than what they found it in. My buddy is the guy they sent to fix those things. He doesn't make jack. My company leases all of our big printers. The lease includes toner and maintenance, so the more it breaks down the more it eats into their profit. It's a tough job to find, but being a technical writer for imported things, my job was to take the directions included with Chinese-made DIY furniture, which were in horribly translated English, and rewrite them to make sense to the average English speaker. I did it informally and got a couple grand per assignment, but the company I did it for went out of business and I wouldn't even know where to look for that type of job again. I found it through a relative the first time. These threads kill me. There are so many skilled trades that pay great, easily close to or at 6 figures. No, not day one, as long as you are willing to work with your hands. Mechanics, HVAC, plumbers, electricians, etc. Plenty make crap and drink their life away every Friday because they do, and get the minimum. Plenty work hard and advance their knowledge base at every turn. What paralyzes people is their personal narrative. You feel like you have crossed a line permanently knocking you down a rung in a caste system that doesn't exist if you get dirty for a little while. Do what you have to do now and work toward what you want to do. My wife and I were liberal arts educated people, waitress and mechanic respectively for a decade, while on our way to the $250,000 a year we make now. You are not your job. If you'd prefer to have a fancy title and live just above the poverty line, replete with business card and suit, there are plenty of people waiting to suck the life out of you. If you're willing to roll your sleeves up, you can have a pretty good life sooner than you think. Medical laboratory professionals make decent money, varies by location, but $45-75 a year is the middle half. And due to a decline in interest in the field over the last 20 or so years, there are job openings everywhere. It's only getting worse because the baby boomers are retiring and we're struggling to fill the holes they're leaving behind. MLT certification takes about 2 years to complete. Compensation is on the lower end of the scale, and won't be able to work in some labs. MLS takes about 4 years to complete. Compensation is better, and can work in most non-specialty labs. Well crap, guys. I'm 17, sophomore in high school, need something that can pay $100, $200 a week. Thought either mowing lawns or dealing drugs is the answer. Thoughts? Folks will always appreciate a good grass guy. Freaking ATM machines. My dude used to sell weed in college and always had cash laying around that he refused to put in the bank. So he decided to buy an ATM machine. He went around to local businesses and asked if he could put his machine in there, started filling it with his weed money, and eventually the $2 to $4 fee started to add up. Bought another ATM and repeated the cycle. Fast forward 10 years later, he has around 55 machines, multiple employees, and doesn't really do anything other than manage the business's affairs. I've never asked how much he makes, but he'll just say high 6 figures. It's nuts. Yachting. Freaking working on super yachts. No living expenses because you live on a boat. Entry level is $4,000 a month plus ridiculous tips from the people that charter the boats. It's a stupid amount of money, and all you need is a few classes and a medical exam. I know people that worked in yachting for 10 years and retired at the age of 30. It's a crazy amount of money. So you're telling me someone making $4,000 a month for 10 years can retire at 30? If you are a Canadian or American, working on a domestic cargo ship pays a lot and you have a very low cost of living. On my ship, the ordinary seamen, lowest ranking guys, get paid around $80,000 a year before taxes. Besides the basic safety courses and seamanship courses, there are no educational requirements. A lot of the guys I work with never finished high school, and some of the older fellows don't even know how to read. If you want more money, you can be a navigation or engineering officer. To accomplish this, you need to take a 3 or 4 year program. For me, the school cost about $3,000 a year. When you graduate, you can get a job immediately. I got hired 1 week after I became certified, and the pay is about $14,000 to $15,000 a month before taxes, and you can work about 7-8 months a year. The best part about this is your reduction in cost of living. If you are a single person with no attachments, you only need to rent a place for a few months a year during your time off. Heck, you can even spend that month off crashing with your friends or parents if they don't mind. It's only 1 month at a time. When on the ship, you don't have to pay for food, cable, internet, housing, electricity, heat, gym membership, etc. Heck, you don't even need to spend money for a car since you won't be using it, nor do you need it to commute to work. Also, since you are not ashore as often, you are less likely to buy stuff you don't need. Even if you do have a family, you can pick and choose where you want to live because the company flies you to the ship anyways. A lot of the guys I work with live in very small and inexpensive communities where it only cost $50,000 to buy a house that would cost almost $1 million in a big city. Perfusionist. The person who runs the machines that keep blood pumping and circulating during heart surgery, requires a Bachelor of Science and 1-2 years of perfusionist school, but it pays 6 figures I believe. Only about 3,000-4,000 of them in the United States. Huge shortage of them. I'm a mechanic and it's not that hard to learn, and it pays great. It helps to actually be good at your job though. So many mechanics are so freaking awful it makes me feel bad being in the same profession as them. Here in Brazil, the job where you park big ships, dunno the name in English but in Portuguese is pratico, you can earn about $700 K a year working about 1 week on to off. To get into this job there is a test with little prerequisites other than any college degree. My partner is a sterilized processing technician at the hospital. He collects, sterilizes, and assembles surgery toolkits and equipment. He makes $20 to $25 an hour. Some hours have wage premiums, which is excellent considering he has no post-secondary education. Okay, so this one will take some dedication and patience. If you are just out of high school, and preferably live in a rural or semi-rural area, go to your local cooperative utility, as opposed to commercially owned company. Obviously, I'm at an electric cooperative, in the US. Don't know if this applies around in other parts of the world. Get a job sweeping the warehouse, stocking shelves, cleaning toilets, whatever. Get a job. They have wonderful benefits, and if you would like to be a lineman, they will usually train you on the job while you take the book work classes that they will pay for, or move through the ranks in the warehousing, facilities management, whatever. Retire. It's a life. They pay very well and have very good benefits. Your life is what you make it. Traveling radiation protection technician. Work 6-8 months of the year maybe. Most bring in around plus $80K a year. You work nuclear power plants refueling outages. Most schedules are 6 12-hour days a week and outages last about 20-30 days. Dan Zimmerman, Dretech.com, and Bartlett Nuclear are the main companies. You typically need to start as a decontamination technician for a few years to work up to being an RP tech. Must pass federal background checks and drug testing as well as a ton of tests to make sure you know what's going on. Read slideshow on something like how to use a harness and then take a test, mostly on computers. You can work full-time at a nuclear plant and you get benefits, and a lot of the techs where I work clear $150 K a year. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.